Yo, what is going on, guys? Today we are talking some more NHL. We're going to be looking back all the way to 2004, where we're going to look what would happen if there was no draft lottery in the NHL. We're going back to 2004 because arguably that was one of the most team-altering drafts in recent history, and we're just going to work our way forward all the way up into the 2016 Austin Matthews draft and see what teams would look like today if there was no such thing as the draft lottery in NHL. Now, I know there are a lot of outside factors like trades and the team could have been better and so forth the following year because of these draft picks, but for entertainment purposes, we're just going to go give teams the player taken in their original spot. So for example, say the third place team moves up to first, we'd assign the second place team the third place team's draft pick. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Now, we all know the draft lottery was put into effect, kind of to be like, yeah, so you guys can't tank no more, we're gonna throw this lottery in here. Did it work? That's up for debate. We're not debating that. But what we'll do, I think we'll go ahead and we'll line up all the teams, what they would look like today off of these drafts, off of these trades. The teams that were obviously affected, and I'll show you each one's team. We'll go through it. I think it'll be interesting to do. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. Let's start here with 2004. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they had the first overall pick, but lost the draft lottery. And man, did they lose. They had to take Evgeni Malkin. It was rough. Arguably the best ever second line center in the history of everything. But anyway, the Blackhawks, they had the second overall pick, but they had to pick number 3, and that means they got Cam Barker. Why did they take number 3? Because the Washington Capitals, who were number 3, won the lottery, and they got to take Ovi. Now, could you imagine the Capitals with Cam Barker right now, and the Blackhawks with Evgeni Malkin, and the Penguins with Ovi? Man, that'd be something. It'd be a team right there. The 2005 draft lottery was arguably one of the most remembered and controversial ones, as the Penguins won the lottery. And it was almost a blessing in disguise, twice, because they got to take Malkin anyway, that they lost the draft lottery in 2004, because since they didn't win the 2004 draft lottery and 2005 was the lockout year, it was an odd way of the draft lottery being chosen, and that increased the Penguins' odds of winning the lottery. So had they taken Ovi the year before, they would have missed out on what is known as the Sidney Crosby sweepstakes. Imagine the Penguins having Ovi on their team right now and no Crosby or Malkin. Alright, so draft year 2007, there was no draft change in 2006, so we're skipping over that year. But in 2007, the Blackhawks won the lottery, moving them from 5th to 1st, resulting in it being one of the most notorious draft lotteries listed, as it resulted in them drafting Patrick Kane instead of a guy by the name of Carl Alzner. That's right, the Flyers had the number 1 overall pick, they lost it. Instead of getting Kane, they got JVR. The Coyotes were picking 2, they took 3. They ended up with Turris, they could have had JVR. Thomas Hickey ended up in LA when he should have ended up on Washington, with Turris being on the Kings. It was a mess that year. 2008 to 2010, the draft order remained unchanged, moving us into 2011, where the Devils won the lottery, moving them to number 4. They had the 8th best pick. They went up to 4 because you could only move up 4 spots back then during the lottery. They took Adam Larson with that 4th pick. You could have made the argument they would have taken Dougie Hamilton with the 8th pick, one ahead of Philly, but for purely draft choice selection purposes, we're going to give them Sean Couturier. Adam Larson would have been on the Islanders, Ryan Strome to the Senators, Zibanejad would have been a Jet, and Mark Scheifele would have been playing for the Flyers. The Flyers just seem like they're missing out on some gems going into 2012. I just had to bring it up though. Here we go. The Columbus Blue Jackets had the number 1 overall pick. They got number 2. They took Ryan Murray. Again, it could have been a blessing in disguise. I think I'd rather have Ryan Murray than Nail Yakupov right now, which is who Edmonton took number 1 overall, and they were the winners of the draft lottery, moving them from number 2 to number 1. 2013, the Florida Panthers had the best chance of winning the lottery, but they did not. They lost it to the Colorado Avalanche, resulting in the Panthers having to take Barkov and Colorado getting Nathan McKinnon. 2014, Buffalo had the number 1 overall pick, but they lost it to Florida. Florida got that number 1 overall pick right back. So Buffalo was stuck taking Sam Reinhart, and Florida got to take Aaron Ekblad. And yes, this was actually the year Edmonton didn't win the draft lottery and picked 3rd overall. How about that? They got Draisaitl though. Go figure, right? 2015, once again, Buffalo had the number 1 chance of winning the draft lottery, but here we go. The McDavid sweepstakes, where Edmonton was picking 3rd overall, and they ended up winning the draft, giving them the chance to take Connor McDavid, resulting in Buffalo getting Jack Eichel and Arizona getting Dylan Strome. But could you imagine if Jack Eichel was currently playing in Arizona while Dylan Strome was over there in Edmonton? And then here we go, 2016, last year's draft. The Maple Leafs had the number 1 chance of winning the draft. They got it. Matthews ended up being taken, Austin type. The Oilers here had the second best chance of winning the draft lottery. They ended up falling back to number 4 and taking Jesse Puljujarvi. The Canucks, like I said, they ain't a big fan of these draft lotteries after this year too. They was number 3. They fell all the way back to number 5. Had to take Ole Julevi. I can't even say his name. Why'd you even try to pronounce it? The Jets though, they was number 6, and they moved all the way up to number 2, obviously taking Patrick Laine. The Blue Jackets, my team right there, got 3. They was going to be drafted number 4, but they ended up with Luc Dubois. Had it not been for the lottery, I mean, I guess this goes both ways, right? Because had it not been for the lottery, they never had McDavid. But had it not been for the lottery, the Oilers would have had a line of Connor McDavid, Patrick Laine, and Taylor Hall, had they not traded him, obviously, on their first line. All right, so let's go through everybody's teams that were affected. We'll start with Arizona. Oh, they'd have Datsuk. That's always a good start. They'd have Datsuk, Jack Eichel, and JVR. So the Buffalo Sabres, they seem like they got a little bit of a good deal out of this one. They'd have McDavid playing center, and then they'd have Aaron Ekblad over there playing some right D. Man, they'd have a pretty nice looking team going. The Flames, they would just be the Chuckless Flames. Other than that, not too big of a change for them. Now the Blackhawks, you want to talk about a change. It looks like Malkin is still stuck playing second line for his entire career. Because now he's got Jonathan Toews in front of him, but there is no Patrick Kane to go playing with him, so they're going to have Mott over there playing right wing with Malkin. That's a good time though, right? Avalanche would be without Nathan MacKinnon, but as his EA would say, they upgraded to Alexander Barkov from an 87 to an 88, so they didn't make out too bad. And then there's my Blue Jackets. We went from a solid second line D-man to a fourth line winger in Yakupov. Not too bad though. The Oilers, man. Oilers fans might want to close their eyes on this one. I mean, now it isn't all bad, but you got to remember they traded away Taylor Hall, so that's why they have no Taylor Hall. And they don't have Adam Larson because he had to go to another team. But they got Patrick Laine playing second line though, and they got themselves a decent defenseman in Ryan Murray. But they lost Larson, and I think they lost that one guy, plays center. You guys know who he is. And then the Florida Panthers, they swapped out Barkov for a nice looking Nathan MacKinnon. Did they swap out the defense? I think they lost a little bit of defense, obviously, because they lost that Aaron Ekblad. But they did gain Sam Reinhart. If you want to, trade Ekblad for Reinhart, I don't think you guys would be too happy with that. The New York Islanders, though, they'd be beefing up that defense and featuring Adam Larson on it now. Ottawa Senators would be up Ryan Strome. They could use a second line center, it looks like, but don't tell that to Pageau, man, the way he's been playing in the playoffs. Is it Pageau or Pageau? I always used to say Pageau, and I feel like that was wrong. The Flyers just might have been the winners if there was no such thing as a draft lottery, as they'd be rocking Giroux, Kane, Voracek, Scheifele, and Wayne Simmons clear down there in the third line. Man, would they have a pretty potent looking offense. As for the Penguins, it wasn't all bad. Yes, they lost Malkin. Okay, it's all bad because now they got Kessel and Alex Ovechkin fighting over the puck up there on the first line. But it's still that's pretty solid looking first line. Kessel, Crosby, Ovechkin. Can you imagine? That could probably score you some goals. We got to go look at your lineup, Washington. We just got to do it to you. That's what you'd look like without Alex Ovechkin on your team. It's unfortunate, but hey. But then we got the Patrick Laine, Les Jets, and Mark Scheifele. But they do got Mika Zibanejad, and they do have Matthew Tkachuk now. Otherwise, guys, that is it for this video. If you guys want to see me do a simulation with all these players right here, this roster in franchise mode, kind of, to see how teams would perform with no draft lottery, please let me know. I'll go ahead and get on that. Let me know. Like I said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.